The market was alive with noise, filled with the smell of sweat, dust, and strange alien spices. Traders shouted prices for goods. Hammers struck wood as deals were made, and in the center of it all stood the raised platform, the place where slaves were sold like animals. A tall alien with 4 arms wearing bright red robes acted as the auctioneer. His voice was sharp and mocking. His long fingers pointed toward the cages. One by one, frightened slaves were pushed forward, their heads bowed low. Each sale was a show. Each laugh from the crowd was cruel. Then the auctioneer's grin widened as he dragged forward a girl. She was young, her face pale under layers of dirt. Her hair was tangled, her eyes filled with fear. And most of all, she had only one leg. She limped forward, held up by chains. The auctioneer shouted, "Half price for the one-legged slave." The crowd erupted in laughter. Harsh voices called out jokes. Coins clinked as buyers shook their heads. No one wanted her. To them, she was broken, worthless. But in the corner of the market, standing silent and still, was a human. His clothes were plain, dust covering his boots. His eyes were calm but sharp. He did not laugh. He did not mock. Instead, he watched her carefully. His jaw tightened when the crowd roared with laughter. He saw something they didn't. The auctioneer banged his stick on the wood. "Come now, even a weak one has some use. A servant, a pet, half price, half price." The crowd jeered again. One alien shouted, "She can't even walk without falling." Another laughed, "Not worth the food she will eat." The girl's head lowered even further. She wished the ground would open and swallow her. Her hands shook as she gripped the iron chains. Her throat was dry. She knew no one would buy her. And if no one did, the guards would throw her into the pits where the unwanted slaves disappeared. Few ever returned from there. The auctioneer looked annoyed. His voice rose louder. "No one? No one at all? I will drop her even lower. Quarter price." The crowd laughed even harder. To them it was a game, a cruel show, but then a voice cut through the noise, calm, steady, and human. "I will take her." The laughter stopped. Silence fell, heads turned. All eyes searched for the one who had spoken. The human stepped forward, his face hidden partly in shadow, his hand raised with a firm gesture. He did not shout. He did not argue. He simply said the words, and the marketplace froze. The auctioneer blinked. His 4 eyes studied the man. He tilted his head, then burst out laughing. "A human? Buying this broken thing? You must be joking. She's not worth your coins." The human did not smile. He placed a small pouch of money on the wooden table in front of the stage. The sound of coins hitting wood was sharp. The auctioneer's eyes widened. The crowd gasped. The girl looked up for the first time. Her eyes met his. For a second, she forgot her chains, her breath caught in her throat. Why would anyone, especially a human, spend money on her? The auctioneer scratched his chin, still smirking. Well, if a fool wants to waste his gold, who am I to stop him?" He lifted his stick and shouted, "Sold! The one-legged slave belongs to the human." The crowd booed and hissed. Some shouted, "Fool!" Others laughed again. "What will you do with her? Carry her on your back?" But the human did not answer them. He walked forward slowly, his boots thudding on the wooden floor. The guards unlocked the girl's chains, pushing her roughly toward him. She stumbled, nearly falling, but the human caught her by the arm. His grip was firm, but not cruel. The girl flinched, expecting another slap, another order. But instead, the human only said one thing. His voice, low, meant only for her. "You are safe now." The words shocked her more than the chains ever had safe. No one had ever said that to her before. She looked at him, her lips trembling, but no sound came out. The crowd slowly turned back to the stage, bored now that the show was over. But whispers spread quickly. A human buying a useless slave? It was strange, suspicious, foolish. Yet as the human guided the girl down from the platform, the look in his eyes told a different story. He had not bought her for work. He had not bought her for cruelty. He had seen something no one else saw, and, for the first time in her life, the girl felt a tiny spark of something she thought she had lost forever. Hope. The human's voice still echoed in the air. "I will take her." The marketplace had gone silent for a breath, but then whispers returned like snakes sliding across the ground. The crowd couldn't believe it. A one-legged slave? Worthless, broken, mocked by all. Yet a human had stepped forward and placed coin on the table. The auctioneer, still laughing, called out loudly, "Look, people of the market, here is a human who spends his gold on pity." He lifted the pouch and shook it so the coins rattled. "Does anyone wish to challenge his bid? Perhaps someone wants to raise the price. Surely this fine girl is worth more than one fool's coin." The crowd laughed again, but this time with sharp curiosity. Some aliens raised their brows, others nudged each other. They had ignored the girl before, but now they looked at her again. Why would a human want her? Did she hide some secret value? Merchant with blue scales raised his claw. "10 more coins," he shouted. His voice was cruel, his grin showed long teeth. He did not want her for work. His eyes promised pain. The girl's heart stopped. She had thought her life could not get worse, but now the bidding had begun. She shook her head slightly, staring at the human with wide eyes. Fear screamed inside her chest. If another won the bid, her hope would be gone. But the human did not flinch. He placed another pouch on the table, heavier this time. The thud of the coins was like thunder. His eyes stayed locked on the auctioneer, calm, steady, unblinking. The auctioneer's grin grew wider. "Oh, this is fun. Who else? Who else will test the human's madness?" Another voice rose, this time from a fat alien in gold robes. "She would make a fine joke in my court. 50 coins." Laughter rolled again. The girl trembled. She could not stop her hands from shaking. Her chains rattled. Every bid felt like claws tearing at her soul. She wanted to scream, but her voice was trapped in her throat. The human stepped, forward once more, his boot striking hard against the wooden floor. He dropped yet another pouch larger than the last. The sound of metal filled the market. The fat alien's smile faltered. The auctioneer lifted the pouch, his forearms struggling. With the weight, his eyes gleamed with greed. The human offers a fortune for a broken girl. Who will match him? The crowd murmured, but no one answered. The merchants who laughed now lowered their eyes. Even the cruel blue-scaled bidder fell silent. No one wished to throw away that much coin. Not for her. Not against a human who stared at them like stone. The auctioneer pounded his stick. Going once, going twice, sold to the human. The final word cracked through the air, ending the tension. The crowd hissed and whispered, but no one dared speak louder. The human had won. The guards dragged the girl down from the stage, shoving her toward him. She nearly fell again, her one leg weak, her body trembling. But this time the human caught her before she hit the ground, his hand steady on her arm, his touch strong, but not cruel. The girl stared at him, confusion filling her chest. She wanted to ask why. Why spend so much for me? But the words would not form. She was afraid to hope too much. The auctioneer laughed again as the human guided her away. "Spend your gold, foolish man, spend it on broken toys, it matters not. The market will always take your coin." His laughter followed them like a curse, but the human did not turn back. He led her through the crowd, step by slow step. His pace steady, matching hers. He did not rush. He did not pull her like the guards had. Instead, he moved as though her weakness was nothing, as though she was already free. The crowd parted for them, whispering. Some spat on the ground, others laughed quietly, but many only watched, their eyes filled with questions. Why would a human do this? What did he see in her that they did not? The girl's breath came in short gasps, her heart heavy with fear, but also something new, something strange. Every time she looked up at him, she saw no cruelty in his eyes, no hunger, no greed, just a calm focus, as if he had chosen her for a reason no one could understand. When they reached the edge of the market, the noise of the auction faded. The air was cooler, quieter. The girl dared to whisper, her voice thin as smoke. Why me? The human looked down at her, his face unreadable. Then, after a moment, he answered with words that struck her like fire. Because you are not broken. She froze. Her throat closed. Her eyes burned. No one had ever said that to her. Not once. Not ever. The human adjusted the small pack on his shoulder and continued walking, his hand still steady on her arm. He did not speak again, but his silence said enough. The girl limped beside him, her chains gone but her body still weak. Inside, her heart beat faster and faster. She did not know where he was taking her. She did not know what his true reason was. But one thing was certain. Her life had changed forever the moment he raised his hand in the auction, and deep inside, beneath her fear and pain, a new question began to grow, a question that would not let her rest. What did this human see in her that no one else ever had? The road beyond the marketplace was quieter, but the girl still felt the laughter of the crowd echoing in her ears. She could still hear the words. Half price. Broken. Worthless. They stabbed into her mind like knives. Even now, even after, the human had bought her. The shame clung to her like dirt she could never wash away. Her chains rattled with every step. The guards had left them locked on her wrists and ankles. To them, she was still a slave. No matter who owned her, the iron cut against her skin. She winced but did not cry out. She had learned long ago that tears earned nothing. The human walked beside her in silence, his face calm, his eyes steady. His stride matched hers, slow but patient. When she stumbled, his hand reached out to steady her. Not harsh, not violent, just steady. Finally, when the noise of the market was far behind, he stopped under a wide arch of stone near the road. He turned to face her. His hand moved to the small knife on his belt. The girl's body froze, her breath caught in her throat. Her mind screamed, "This is it. He will strike me down." But instead the human knelt. He slid the knife under the chain at her wrist and pressed upward. With one sharp twist, the lock snapped. The chain clattered to the ground. The girl gasped, staring at the broken link. She had expected pain, but instead, she felt freedom. One by one, he cut the other locks. The sound of falling iron filled the air. Her ankles, her wrists, her neck. All released, her body felt lighter, but her mind spun in disbelief. She rubbed her wrists, staring at the red marks left behind. Her lips trembled. Why would you do this? The human looked at her with calm eyes. Because no one deserves to live in chains. The word struck harder than the knife had. Her knees wobbled. She sank to the ground, not from weakness, but from the weight of those words. She whispered, almost to herself, "But I am broken. I cannot walk like the others. I cannot fight. I am not worth—" He cut her words short, his voice firm but gentle. "You are alive. That is enough." The girl stared at him, her heart racing. Her whole life had been voices telling her she was nothing, and now one voice, steady and human, told her she was something more. Her eyes filled with tears she could not stop this time. She quickly turned her face away. Ashamed of her weakness, the human did not mock her. He simply rose to his feet, adjusted his pack, and pulled out a small flask. He handed it to her. "Drink." Her hands shook as she held it. The water was cool, clean, far better than the scraps she was ever given. She drank greedily, coughing between gulps. When she finished, she wiped her mouth with the back of her hand. Her eyes flicked up to him, expecting anger. But he only nodded, as if it was natural that she drink first. Then he offered her a small loaf of bread wrapped in cloth. The smell made her stomach twist. She wanted to refuse out of pride. But hunger clawed at her. She took it and ate slowly, each bite softening the iron walls inside her. For the first time in years, someone had given her food, not because they wanted work in return, not because they wanted her humiliation, but simply because she was hungry. As she ate, the human leaned against the stone arch, silent. His eyes scanned the road ahead, always watchful. She studied him carefully. His face was lined but strong, his clothes simple but practical. He carried himself like someone who had seen war, someone who carried scars no one else could see. She wondered, why me? Out of all the slaves, why did he choose me? When her hunger eased, she whispered, "Do you have a name?" He looked down at her for a moment, then gave a small nod. Marcus. The name felt strange on her tongue. Human names always did, but it also felt solid, like stone, strong, and real. She held it in her mind carefully, as if it was a treasure. Marcus studied her quietly, then asked, "And you? Do you have a name?" Her lips parted, but no sound came. She had not spoken her true name in years. The slavers had beaten it out of her. They called her by numbers, by insults, but not her name. At last she whispered, her voice so soft she feared the wind would. "Take it, Lyra." Marcus repeated it, his voice steady. "Lyra." He nodded once. "That is a strong name." She blinked at him. Shock filled her. No one had ever called her name strong before. Night began to fall. Stars blinked above. Marcus set a small fire with dry sticks. Lyra sat close to it, warming her thin hands. She listened to the crackle of the flames. Her body relaxed, though her mind still raced. She dared to ask one more question. Why spend your gold on me?" Marcus stared into the fire for a long time. The flames reflected in his eyes. Finally, he answered in a voice heavy with something deeper than pity. "Because I have seen too many left behind, I will not leave another." Lyra hugged her knees, her throat tight. She had no answer, only silence. That night, for the first time in years, she slept without chains. Her dreams were filled not with the laughter of the crowd, but with the echo of his words. "You are not broken." The fire crackled gently in the still night. The desert winds carried dust across the stones, but the small flame gave warmth to the two figures sitting close to it. Lyra pulled her thin cloak tighter around her shoulders, her one leg folded beneath her, her eyes staring into the flames. Marcus sat across from her, silent as always. His knife rested on his knee, his gaze steady on the horizon, even though the stars hung quiet above them. He seemed like a man who never truly rested, even when he sat. His body was ready, his mind sharp. Lyra shifted uncomfortably. The silence pressed on her. It was not cruel like the silence of the cages, but heavy. Like it carried weight, she felt her chest ache, a mix of fear and curiosity. At last she whispered, Why do you not ask me anything?" Marcus tilted his head. His eyes flicked to her, calm and steady. "You will speak when you are ready." The words unsettled her more than if he had demanded answers. She lowered her eyes. Her voice was shaky. "If I speak, you may not want me anymore." Marcus did not move. He simply said, "Try me." Lyra's throat tightened. Her hands twisted in her cloak. For a long time she said nothing, but the fire gave her courage, its light flickering like a heartbeat. Finally, her voice broke the night. "I was born in a small village by the river plains," she whispered. "My people lived simple lives. We fished, we farmed. We were not warriors, not traders, only villagers." She paused, her lip trembling. "But the raiders came one night. The sky burned with their torches, their ships darkened the stars. They took everything." Her voice cracked, but she pushed on. "My father tried to fight. They cut him down. My mother hid me under the floorboards. But they found me. They dragged me out by my hair. I kicked and screamed, and they cut off my legs so I would not run." Her hands trembled violently. She covered her face, ashamed of her tears. Marcus did not interrupt. His eyes stayed on her. Steady and sharp, his silence gave her space to continue. "They threw me into a cage with others. I thought they would kill me, but instead they sold me. From one master to another, each worse than the last, always mocked, always beaten. No one wanted the girl who limped. No one wanted the broken thing." Her breath came fast, her chest heavy. "I stopped counting the years. I stopped saying my name. I was nothing." Her tears spilled onto her hands. She shook her head. And then today they laughed again. They laughed louder than ever. "Half price," they said. "Worthless," they said. She bit her lip until it bled. "Why would you waste your gold on me? Why?" The fire cracked, throwing sparks into the air. For a moment, only silence answered her. Marcus leaned forward, his knife sliding back into its sheath. His hands rested on his knees. His voice, when it came, was low but steady. "Because I know what it means to be left behind." Lyra's head lifted. Her tears still glistened on her cheeks. "You?" she whispered. "You are strong. You are whole. You are human. How could you know?" Marcus's eyes darkened. He looked past the fire as if staring into another time. "I fought in wars. Long before I came to this market. I had comrades, friends, brothers." His voice grew rougher. One by one they fell. Some died quickly, some cried for days in pain, and some were left broken, missing limbs, missing hope. He drew in a slow breath. The commanders threw them aside, said they were useless, said they slowed the unit. I watched them tossed into corners like tools that had snapped. His hands clenched into fists. And I swore then, I would never turn my eyes away from the ones others left behind. Lyra stared at him. Her chest ached. Her tears mixed with the warmth of the fire. She whispered, "So you saw me, and you remembered them?" Marcus nodded once. "Yes." His eyes met hers, sharp and unflinching. "But you are not them. You are not finished. You are not worthless. You are Lyra." The name on his lips sent a strange warmth through her. It was the first time anyone had spoken it with respect in so long. She hugged her cloak tighter, whispering, "I don't know how to be anything else but broken." Marcus leaned back slightly, his gaze steady. "Then we will learn." The words settled over her like a blanket, heavy but warm. For the first time, she felt not like a piece of property, but like a person whose life could still change. Her heart pounded in confusion and fragile hope. The night deepened. The fire grew smaller, but neither of them moved. Lyra's eyes finally grew heavy, her body swaying with exhaustion. Before sleep claimed her, she whispered, "Marcus." He looked at her, waiting, her lips curved into the faintest shadow of a smile. "Thank you." Then she curled into her cloak and sleep carried her away. Her dreams were not filled with screams that night. Instead, she saw a river plain, her village whole, and in the distance, a steady figure standing guard, silent but strong. Marcus stayed, awake watching the fire, his hand resting on the hilt of his knife. His eyes never left the shadows around them. He had freed her chains, but he knew the world was still full of threats. He had given her one night of peace, but the true test of her strength was yet to come, and he would be there when it came. The morning sun rose over the desert, its light sharp against the stone hills. Lyra blinked awake, her body sore but lighter without the weight of chains. For a moment she did not remember where she was. Then she saw the dying embers of the fire. Marcus sitting nearby, sharpening his knife with slow, steady strokes. He glanced at her. "You're awake." Lyra pulled her cloak tighter, her one leg curled beneath her. Her throat was dry. She whispered, "Yes." Her voice was weak. Her body felt fragile, but her eyes followed his movements with quiet curiosity. Marcus slid the knife into its sheath and stood. "Eat," he said, tossing her a small piece of dried meat. She caught it clumsily. Her stomach growled. She ate quickly, the salty taste burning her tongue but filling her with strength. When she finished, Marcus looked at her for a long moment, then spoke. "If you want to survive, you cannot stay weak." Lyra flinched. His words sounded harsh, like the words of masters before him, but his tone was different. It was not mockery. It was truth, firm and heavy. She lowered her eyes, whispering, "I can't. I have only one leg." Marcus crouched in front of her, his gaze sharp. "And yet you still live. Don't tell me what you cannot do. Show me what you can." Her breath caught. Her hands trembled in her cloak. She wanted to argue, but his eyes left no room for excuses. Marcus rose and pulled a long stick from the ground. He tossed it to her. "Your new leg until we build something better." Lyra hesitated, then gripped the stick. She pushed herself up, wobbling. Her body swayed, her arms shaking. Marcus stepped closer but did not hold her. He let her fight. To balance, She gritted her teeth, sweat forming on her forehead. Slowly, carefully she stood, her chest heaved, her arms burned. But for the first time, she stood taller than the dirt. She swallowed hard, her heart pounding. Marcus gave a small flourish. He picked up a second stick and placed it in her hands. "And this? Your weapon?" Lyra stared at it, her voice cracked. "A weapon? For me?" Marcus's tone was steady. "Why not you?" Her throat tightened. She looked down at the stick as if it were fire. She had been told all her life she was useless. She could not fight, could not work, could not matter. Yet here was a human placing a weapon in her hands as if she deserved it. The training began. Marcus showed her how to hold it, how to balance her weight, how to strike without falling. At first, she failed again and again. She swung too hard and stumbled. She leaned too far and collapsed into the dirt. Her palms bled from gripping the wood too tightly. Her arms ached until she wanted to cry. Each time she fell, Marcus stood nearby, silent, his eyes steady. He did not lift her. He did not mock her. He only said, "Again." The word cut through her pain. Each time she forced herself back up, each time she tried again. The sun climbed higher, her breath grew ragged. At last she dropped to her knees, her body shaking. Sweat dripped into the dust. She gasped, "I can't. Not anymore." Marcus crouched beside her, his voice calm but firm. "Yes, you can, one more." She shook her head. "I'll fall again." He leaned closer, his eyes burning into hers. "Then fall, and stand again. That is how you will live." The words struck deeper than the strikes she had failed. Her chest rose and fell with heavy breaths. Slowly, painfully, she pushed herself back up, her stick pressed into the dirt. She steadied her balance. Her arms shook as she raised her weapon again. Marcus nodded once. "Now strike." With a cry she swung. Her body wobbled, but she did not fall this time. Her stick cut through the air with a sharp snap. Dust swirled around her feet. She gasped for breath, but her eyes widened in shock. She had done it. Marcus's lips curved into the faintest shadow of approval. "Better." Lyra stared at him, her chest tight. For the first time in years, she felt something more powerful than fear. She felt strength, small but real. The training continued through the day. Marcus taught her how to strike low, how to guard, how to move with her weakness instead of against it. When her leg gave out, he told her to use her arms. When her arms shook, he told her to use her will. By evening, she collapsed by the fire again. Her body ached with every muscle. Her skin was raw, but when she looked at her hands gripping the stick, she smiled faintly through the pain. Marcus sat nearby, sharpening, his knife once more. His voice broke the silence. "You are not broken, Lyra, you are becoming." Her heart swelled at the words. She hugged the stick close to her chest, whispering, "Becoming, what?" Marcus's eyes lifted to hers, steady and strong. "Becoming more than what they ever believed you could be." The fire burned between them. The night was cold, but Lyra's chest felt warm with a fire of her own. That night, when she closed her eyes, she no longer dreamed of cages or laughter. She dreamed of standing tall, a weapon in her hand, her enemies trembling. For the first time, she dared to believe that maybe, just maybe, Marcus was right. The days passed quickly. After the training began, each morning Marcus woke before the sun, sharpening his blade and scanning the horizon. Lyra followed him, her body aching, her hands raw from the stick, but she never stopped. She fell, she bruised, she cried quietly into the dirt, but each time Marcus said the same word, "Again," and she rose. One evening, the sky turned red. As the sun sank low, the air was thick and heavy. Marcus's eyes narrowed. He placed his knife back in its sheath and stood still, listening. Lyra noticed the sudden tension in his body. She stopped practicing, her heart thumping. "What is it?" she whispered. Marcus's voice was low and sharp. "Raiders." Lyra froze. Her breath caught in her throat. The word alone was enough to drag her back to the night her village burned. Her hands trembled on the stick. Her one leg shook violently. No, no, not them. Marcus glanced at her, his eyes steady. This is your test, Lyra. You can run in fear, or you can stand. The sound of heavy boots and cruel laughter echoed down the road. Shadows moved against the setting sun. Raiders, with jagged armor and wicked weapons, stepped into view. There were 6 of them, their eyes glowing faintly in the dark. The leader grinned, baring sharp teeth. Well, well, what have we here? A human traveler and his broken pet. His eyes landed on Lyra, and he laughed harshly. Half a girl, half a fighter. You should have left her in the dirt where she belongs. Lyra's chest tightened. The words hit her like knives. Her hands shook. Her stick felt heavy. Her mind screamed to run. But Marcus's voice cut through her fear. Calm and steady. Breathe, Lyra gasped, her chest burning. She sucked in a sharp breath, her eyes flicked to Marcus. He stood tall, his knife gleaming in his hand, his stance unshaken, his gaze never wavering. The leader snarled, Kill the human, take the girl, we'll get some fun out of her. The raiders moved forward, weapons raised. The ground trembled with their steps. Lyra's body shook, her leg threatened to give way, but Marcus shouted, his voice sharp like steel. Stand, Lyra. Her heart pounded. Her hands gripped the stick. Her mind roared with memory of chains, cages, laughter. All her pain, all her shame surged through her body. And then, something broke. Or perhaps, something awakened. With a scream, she lifted her stick and swung at the first raider. The wood cracked across his arm. He stumbled back, shocked by the force of the strike. Lyra gasped, her own body trembling, but she had struck. She had landed a blow, the raider hissed, swinging his blade at her. Marcus moved like lightning, his knife flashing, steel met steel, sparks flew. The raider fell back, clutching his arm. Again, Marcus shouted. Lyra cried out and struck again. Her balance wavered, but she used the stick like a spear, jabbing hard into another raider's chest. He stumbled, wheezing, her arms burned, her lungs screamed, but her eyes were wild now, alive. The leader roared in fury, charging toward Marcus. Their blades clashed in a storm of steel. Marcus fought like water, every strike calm, every step measured. His movement spoke of long years of battle. Lyra faced another raider, his grin cruel. He swung low at her leg. She stumbled, almost falling, but instead of collapsing, she twisted and jammed her stick upward. It cracked against his jaw with a sickening snap. He fell backward, unconscious. Lyra's chest heaved, her arms shook violently, her vision blurred, but she screamed through the pain, striking again and again. The girl who once lay in chains now fought like fire. The last raider fled, dragging his wounded comrade. The leader cursed, blood dripping from a cut across his cheek. He glared at Marcus and Lyra, then spat into the dirt. This is not over, human. We will return. Then he turned and disappeared into the shadows. Silence followed, broken only by Lyra's heavy breathing. She collapsed to her knees, clutching the stick. Her body trembled, sweat and dirt covering her skin. Her hands bled from splinters. Her chest burned. But her eyes were alive. Marcus sheathed his knife and walked over, his gaze steady, his voice calm. You stood, Lyra gasped, tears spilling down her face. She whispered, I fought them. Marcus nodded once. Yes. He crouched, in front of her, his hand resting lightly on her shoulder. Do you see now? You are not broken, Lyra. You are more dangerous than they ever imagined. Her tears came harder, but this time they were not only from fear, they were from pride. From something she had thought she would never feel again. She clutched the stick tight, whispering through sobs, I am not broken. I am not broken. Marcus stood and looked at the horizon, the last light of the sun fading into darkness. He knew the raiders would return. He knew more battles were ahead. But tonight, the girl who had once been mocked as worthless had taken her first step into becoming something more, and deep in her heart, Lyra felt it too. She was no longer half a person. She was no longer half price. She was whole. The fire crackled low, the desert silent except for the sound of Lyra's heavy breathing. Her stick still rested in her hands, her knuckles white around it. She stared at the dirt where the raiders had fallen, the echoes of battle, still ringing in her ears. Her chest rose and fell, each breath sharp. She whispered again and again as if afraid to forget. I am not broken. I am not broken. Marcus stood beside her, his shadow long against the firelight, his knife now clean, his stance calm. He watched her quietly, letting her words sink deeper into her soul. When her trembling slowed, he spoke, his voice low, but steady. They will tell others. They will come again, stronger. Lyra swallowed hard. Her arms ached, her leg throbbed, fear gnawed at her belly. But when she looked down at the stick in her hands, her heart steadied. She had fought them. She had stood. Marcus's eyes stayed on her. Do you fear them? She hesitated, then nodded slowly. Yes, but I am not afraid of myself anymore. For the first time, Marcus allowed himself the faintest smile. Good. The next morning, word had already spread. The small trading post nearby buzzed with whispers. A human had bought a one-legged slave, a worthless girl sold for half price, and together they had fought raiders and survived. When Marcus and Lyra entered the settlement, heads turned. Some laughed behind their hands. Others pointed, but this time many stared in silence, curiosity burning in their eyes. The auctioneer, dressed again in his bright red robes, spotted them from across the square, his grin wide and mocking as always. He shouted so all could hear, Look, the fool returns with his broken prize. Tell me, human, is she worth your gold? Or will you sell her back to me for half the price you paid? Laughter rippled through part of the crowd, but not all. Many leaned forward, waiting to see. Lyra froze, the old fear crawling up her chest. Her eyes dropped to the dirt. Her shoulders shook. The words of the auctioneer stabbed at her wounds, dragging her back to the cage, back to the night of chains. But before she could lower her head completely, Marcus spoke, his voice sharp, carrying like steel. She is worth more than your entire market. The laughter stopped. The crowd gasped. The auctioneer's grin faltered. His 4 eyes blinked rapidly. What nonsense do you speak, human? She is broken. She can barely stand. Marcus stepped forward, his presence filling the square. She stood against 6 raiders last night, he said, his voice cutting through the air. She fought when others would have fallen. She struck, blows that sent them fleeing into the dark. Whispers surged through the crowd. Faces turned to Lyra, doubt mixing with awe. Could it be true? Could the broken girl have stood against raiders? The auctioneer laughed nervously. Lies. A story. To make your coin feel worth it. Marcus's eyes narrowed. Then let her prove it. He turned to Lyra, his gaze steady, his voice firm but calm. Show them who you are. Her breath caught. Her heart pounded like a drum in her chest. For a moment she wanted to sink into the ground to hide. But then she remembered the crack of her stick against the raider's jaw, the sound of her own cry in battle, the words Marcus had spoken. You are not broken. Slowly, she lifted her head, her eyes locked on the auctioneer. Her shoulders straightened. She planted her stick into the dirt and leaned on it with strength, not weakness. Her voice, though soft, carried across the square. My name is Lyra, she said. Not half price, not broken, not worthless. I am alive, and I will never be in chains again. The crowd hushed. The silence was heavier than the laughter had ever been. Even the auctioneer stumbled back a step, his smirk dying on his lips. Marcus's eyes glinted with quiet pride. He placed a hand on her shoulder, speaking loudly for all to hear. I did not buy a slave. I freed a warrior. A. Words struck the square like thunder. For a moment no one moved. Then whispers began to rise, not of laughter but of respect. Some shook their heads in disbelief, but others nodded slowly. Their eyes no longer saw only weakness when they looked at her. Lyra's chest swelled. Her eyes burned with tears, but they were not tears of shame this time. They were tears of strength, of something reborn inside her. She clutched her stick tightly, whispering to herself, a warrior. The auctioneer scowled, his voice bitter. Foolish human, foolish girl. One fight does not make you strong. Marcus's gaze cut through him like a blade. "No," he said calmly, "but it proves she is not weak." The auctioneer had no answer. He turned away, muttering, his pride shattered. That night, as the stars filled the sky again, Lyra sat by the fire, her body still sore, her legs still weak, but her spirit burning brighter than ever before. She looked at Marcus, her voice soft but certain. "You saw me when no one else did. You gave me back more than freedom." Marcus shook his head, his eyes steady on the fire. "I only reminded you of what you already were." Lyra smiled faintly, her heart warm. She no longer saw herself as the broken girl sold for half price. She saw herself as someone worth fighting for, worth standing tall, and as the flames danced in the night, she whispered the words that would stay with her forever. "I am not broken. I am whole."